I went prepared for anything, which means I took more than I needed to take.
I think Don had a couple things he had to take out of his bag and put into another bag because he was over 50 pounds. And
I was about 10 pounds over on my suitcase.
Do you like my latest luggage?
That's great.
You know, state of the art. You know, you want this to be a red bag, it's red.
The airline allowed me to take to unload those 10 pounds out of my suitcase and to take an additional carry-on onto the plane in a clear plastic bag.
Jeremy had this Rubik's Cube and I thought it would be fun to try it.
I got the Rubik's Cube as a Christmas present and I had no idea how to figure it out, still don't know how to figure it out.
Jeremy and I were playing around with it and then we give it to Jeff, and as we were boarding the plane, walking down the little aisle or whatever, he finished it by the time he sat down in his seat. We were all like really impressed.
Jeff Davis, he showed us some tricks on how to do it, and he can do it in 3 minutes or less.
I couldn't believe he could do that quickly. I didn't know he had such hidden talents.
Jeff is the master of the Rubik's Cube.
I was thinking to myself, why didn't we just fly to Atlanta again, because it's so much shorter of a trip.
Yeah, that's when I got my sleeping time in. I don't really remember too much of the layover in Houston.
I slept on the floor. Everyone else was like, I'm going to get breakfast. I was like, I'm sleeping.
yeah, the little puddle jumper. There was only 36 passengers. That kind of scared me.
That was the first time I ever was on a plane that small.
It reminds me of those commercials where they're like, big plane, and they spin the wheel, and then it's like, oh, small plane.
I've never been on a plane that small, and I felt bad for Dooley because he was like taller than the plane.
Chris Dooley is quite a tall young man.
I'm somewhat claustrophobic too. I don't really like tight spaces. I like to have open, big areas, and that was not fun.
Airport and Gulfport is really coming along. You know, the first year I was there, it didn't really even have windows yet still. It was just boarded up with plywood. So for it to, you know, definitely have more gates open and more flights coming in and out, you could definitely tell it's a little bit better. Conditions in the airport have improved tremendously. Yeah, I guess the place that we rented the van from was off-site, so we had to wait for Don Colby to go and rent the van and then come back.
Don was getting a rental van and we were outside of the terminal and we're just sitting there.
I kept thinking, oh, the team's going to kill me because it's taking so long.
That time we spent outside Gulfport was just kind of a goofy time. We were just messing around. We were all pretty anxious to get there.
Chris was making statues, standing on this column thing, making statue poses. That was kind of funny.
It was fun though. It was kind of just a chance for us to get to know each other. We still hadn't really had much group time.
I don't know how we did. I was sitting there and I was saying if he doesn't come back with 2 vans, we're not getting to where we got to go.
We have a 15-passenger van, which normally would be enough except for 12 passengers and their luggage, which is, you know, definitely a lot.
It reminds me of those commercials, like you hear people say that they fit like 12 people into a VW Bug.
It was really tight. Yeah, it was tight.
Once you're in, it's not too bad. If you can just close your eyes and imagine you're somewhere else.
Wes and I were all the way in the back, so there were suitcases all around us, and my suitcase was up to here, and I was like looking over.
Of course, we got halfway out of the parking lot and realized we had left one of the suitcases.
That was Lee's bag. It turned out to be Lee's bag.
Lee left his bag.
That was Lee's bag. That was our film crew's bag. And so he was busy filming us, and we left his bag almost.
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect of Camp Victor before we got here.
When I saw the Lutheran Disaster Response logo on the side of the building, when I had heard of it referred to as a camp, I thought, this is really not what I expected.
It was a lot better than I expected.
Camp Victor, I was actually pleasantly surprised.
I think a lot of people have an impression of, you know, you're going down for a missionary trip in a storm-torn area, and, you know, you always hear that the living quarters aren't going to be as great as, you know, one would expect.
But once I got there and kind of walked around, I was very impressed with the facilities and the way their operation ran. So after a couple hours, I realized that this is a well-oiled machine they had down there.
Welcome to Camp Victor. We are very excited to have you here. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you around the camp. And then there's always water and dorm areas. These 3 in the middle are the guys' dorms.
It looks smaller from the outside, but when you get in there, it's like just, it was an old factory, I think, or something. And there's just so much room. And
the whole inside of the camp walls were painted by groups that had been there, individuals that were part of groups that were drawing or painting things that represented who they were, but also reflecting on their own experience.
I liked the paintings on the walls. It was inviting.
It made me feel like everyone who had stayed there had really enjoyed it, and so it was a good first impression.